From the news team that stands for you, this is CBS Local 2 News at 5:30.
President Obama says a government shutdown would, quote, throw a wrench into the gears of the U.S. economy. And during the last government shutdown of about 17 years ago, the typical 401k holder lost more than $7,000 within just a matter of weeks. Managing director and partner at Hightower Advisors here in the Valley, Brian Amity, joins me now to talk about how the government shutdown and perhaps, as importantly, a deadline coming up on our nation's debt ceiling is likely to impact the portfolios of many in our valley. Brian, always a pleasure. Good to see you.
Good evening, Chris.
We learned a little bit about this back in 95, 96. We went through this historically. Do you expect the same? We saw the sell-off. We've seen the sell-off on Wall Street the last few days.
Yeah, I mean, Wall Street's been preparing for this. The last couple days of the week last week were sell-off days. I mean, not big sell-off days, but they were sell-off days.
Roughly 130 points a day on the Dow.
Yeah, about that. And truthfully, it was only down about 90 when they were trying their horse wrangling and stuff like that. So, I mean, the markets are used to this. And back in 95, 96, truthfully, what happened was the S&P was down about 3.5% for the 3-week shutdown that they had. And as soon as they reached an agreement, the S&P was up 10% subsequently in the month to follow. So this is really a non-issue for the markets. The markets are used to seeing the government
And I guess
shut
the silver
down.
lining here, as far as the stocks are concerned, is you get a sell-off, but then you get a lower price to buy back in when this thing gets settled, and it will eventually get settled.
Oh, it definitely will, and it's a tremendous buying opportunity. I mean, if we can get a 4-point break on the market right now with the Federal Reserve continuing their quantitative easing, the market's definitely going to continue to go up.
But isn't this a delicate time, though? I mean, we've seen the stimulus, you can argue this, but start to get the economy a little bit back on track. This is kind of a rough time to have this happening. We could be derailed completely again.
Oh, it's a very delicate time. There's no doubt about that. The bigger concern is the debt ceiling coming down the pike in a couple of weeks. But this is definitely a tough time. You know, with all the uncertainty in Washington, Wall Street just will go status quo. But you know, at the end of the day, the economic numbers haven't been good enough for the Federal Reserve to lower or to stop their bond buying. They're buying almost $85 billion worth of bonds every single month.
And
right
we also
now.
continue to see a jobless recovery, which is unsettling as well.
There's a jobless recovery, but it's on a smaller workforce, and so, you know, truthfully, I think the Federal Reserve did the right thing by pausing in September because they knew this horse wrangling was going to come down the pike. But you know, the economy's still on soft footing.
Back to the debt ceiling, though, you mentioned, and that probably is, I agree with you, more important, and the date is October 17th, not far from now. The dollar has been taking a beating. That will continue to happen, I have to think. And if the U.S. cannot raise that debt ceiling, we can't pay our bills. What does that mean?
Then we're in default.
Yeah.
And then
First time ever.
First time ever, and the S&P 500 and all the other rating agencies will absolutely downgrade our debt again. Last time this happened was in 2011, and the S&P did downgrade our debt to AA from AAA. So it is something to be cautious about. And you know, unfortunately, Washington loves to play with what's going on in the economy, and at some point it's going to bite them back.
Yeah,
and it's
very quickly at the end, I mean, in your line of work, and you're a financial advisor, are you as frustrated as so many people are out there that the Democrats, the Republicans, we can't seem to get together on this? The art of compromise seems to have been lost.
It's like watching a fight on the kindergarten playground. It's ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah.
What happened to statesmanship? I mean, does anybody watch the movie Lincoln and see what statesmanship is really all about?
Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, two different parties. They used to work on things all the time. Brian Amity, always a pleasure.
Chris, thank you.
Thank you, sir.